Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 1, Episode 7 of The Power. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Allie's side of things. Obviously, her having even better control of her powers. I love that moment where she was using the electricity and the water, using her power to make and the girls kept feeling it, but they didn't realize she had such, because they don't know the full extent of what she can do. Once again, she seems like she's the most powerful one. That's why I'm also curious where that is going to be between her and Joss, because Joss just doesn't have control of her power, but she might be in that same lane as Allie, but Allie showcases her power like none of the others have really showcased. That's why she's able to kind of rally people around her, like she performs her miracles. So, obviously, she ended up helping out Savannah. Savannah was trying to get to her, her phone because Sister Veronica took it, and so Allie had her focus, and she ended up blowing the door knob off the handle. It's like, oh, you did that. It's like, no, you did that, Savannah. That was on you. All I did was kind of help guide you, and that's kind of what she is. She's bringing herself up to be the leader of this revolutionary, kind of becoming a new, I don't think she's really trying to be, the voice has kind of got her, putting herself in a position where she's kind of like a pedestal, kind of being like a god. But I'm sure even Allie looks at herself as more like, using the term because I've been using it recently, was herald, kind of like, and even just kind of a messenger, just kind of like I guess in the equivalency, you make her kind of like the Jesus, but obviously using the name Eve and everything, you can set direct parallels there. But obviously this ain't going to go down like it does in a biblical sense between Adam and Eve and what that kind of means, especially because it's like, well, God cast him out of the garden. This voice, which Allie thinks of as God, is chosen her specifically, says that she's special. So either way, Savannah was trying to get her phone because she wanted to talk to her daughter. It's like, I already missed a call, my chance to talk to her a second day in a row. I don't want her to think, she's at such a young age. If I just suddenly disappear, she's going to think I left her, and I don't want her thinking that. So she was able to talk to her daughter, and we see her daughter has the electric burn marks from Savannah accidentally, because Savannah didn't know how to control her power then, and it's like her child was taken from her. And then later on we find her cutting open her, trying to take out the skein, but we know that's fatal. Cutting the skein out, there is no at this point in time, obviously they're trying to come up with a way to neutralize it, obviously on the more government side of things. But yeah, taking the skein out will kill, you'll die of blood loss and stuff. There's no a medical way to take that out currently without killing the person. So, but for Savannah, she's so desperate because it turns out because of this skein, she lost her daughter. Her mom was looking after her daughter, but now her mom lost looking after her daughter Riley because Savannah's mom ended up has EOD now, and it's I guess with everything with I guess maybe because they've already had a history in the family of a parent with someone with EOD hurting a child, that maybe that ended up being it automatically passes on to you because you have EOD now, so you can't take care of the child. So it's her child would end up in foster care and she'd never see her daughter. So, but Allie is rallying everyone later on. Especially after Sister Savannah Sister Veronica ended up saying I know that you're a liar, everything about you is a lie, which I would think, to me, church has always been one of those places where you're supposed to kind of they embrace you no matter who you are. It's you can give a fake name, this and that, we take in everyone. And so it feels a little backwards that Sister Veronica won't give Allie the leeway, because it's if she's lying about who she is, her real name, where she's from, she must have her reasons for it, like any runaway. But I guess there's also the thing of Sister Veronica always had a weird feeling about Eve or Allie, and so now I'm going to expose you for who you really are because I know you're more endangered. But it's right, if we as the audience are more sympathetic to Allie's circumstances, we know what she went through, we know why she did what she did, what she was running from. So, and I think if Sister Veronica knew the truth, she'd probably be a little bit more sympathetic, but it's still the thing of, at the end of the day, Allie still killed someone, so Sister Veronica probably wouldn't be okay with that. But either way. And so Allie's scared because it's like, right, they're going to find out the truth about me, Veronica is, and she's going to send me back. Because like the moment she goes back, she's going to go to jail, having to face the consequences of what she did. And, it's like, especially when she found her place, a place that she belongs, a place that's home. And the voice is telling her, make them believe in you. All you need to do is sway them over to you. She ended up saving Savannah, because Savannah felt like her life was over, considering like, oh, my daughter's taken from me. I can't get this skein out of me. But Allie led her, and some of the other women and girls there ended up sharing their stories about just what their circumstances are. Like one of the sisters shared the fact that her uncle was doing something, was assaulting her, and her mom slapped her because it's like, yeah, your uncle had some, I'm assuming the uncle is her brother, had some troubled childhood. You don't get to go around like bad mouthing him and stuff like that. And even her saying like, at that point, I stopped talking, like I guess to anyone about it, or maybe she just in general, she just stopped talking. So one of the others had talked about, it's like, she's like, yeah, I was a kid, but it wasn't until like I was 7 that I really realized I was a girl. She's like, that's when I found out that I was on the shit team, on the losing team, and how stacked everything was kind of against us in some regards. So Allie ends up leading them to the water, and and because of her electricity, she's able to kind of create this like almost aurora borealis like effect. I mean, it's just kind of greenish. I think it's just from her electricity, like with the water, but it looked greenish. I know the aurora borealis had like other colors, but it kind of reminded me of that. And everyone else thought they were feeling God, not really, because no one knows that Allie can conduct her electricity through the water. So it's kind of like, right, you don't need a fake miracle, but you can create a circumstance and make people think it's a miracle. So they feel like, oh, it's God rushing through them, and that's going to get them on Allie's side. You even see Sister Veronica looking, because it's not just about them. You also, by swaying your greatest enemy to your side, which is, she is your nemesis, she's the person standing in your way, sway her on your side, you remove a major obstacle in your way. But for Allie, it's like, we're done. This is a new world. There's never been a God like us, because we cringe, we smile, we kind of take everything on the chin of whatever this world kind of throws at us, and we're not going to take that anymore, because things are different now. We are different now. So the spark has gotten even brighter with her revolution here and now. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how things kind of progress on that front. Another angle to this episode is the situation with Rox. I love that she is, like, for 20 quid, she is willing to showcase, help some of the other girls, figure out their powers. It's because she has videos online that's a combination of, hey, I'm teaching you how to fight and defend yourself, but I'm also because it also seemed like she was able to kind of charge her electricity with her fists at the end. So feels almost like a very video game or anime move of I'm gonna charge my fists with electricity and be able to punch, add an electric element to my attacks. It feels almost like a video game-esque element in that regard. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see if she fully showcases. I mean, we saw her do it in video, she's punching and she's got the electricity around her fist, but seeing showcasing that more in a physical altercation type of situation of fighting. Do you really do that? And because it makes sense, because every blow will hit that much more, because you hit someone in some good spots to hit them, then you add electricity surging through their power. It's a 1-2 punch type of situation anytime you deal a blow. So I'm definitely interested to see where things kind of go on that front and more about Roxy. But her videos are kind of spreading like wildfire, and she's making some money on the side, and she gives it to Barbara to try and get as rent, but Barbara wasn't willing. I mean, she takes it because it's it's expensive taking care of this house, but also it doesn't make up for the fact is you got your brother Terry dead. You got your brother Terry killed, and so now Bernie is trying to divide the family, everything going forward. It was always going to be a 3-way split. I guess she was always on the outs of that. But now that Terry's gone, which Ricky's like, yo, I deserve that share. Me and my wife, we're eventually going to have a child, so we're going to need that comfort. But, Daryl's like, yo, do whatever you need to, Dad. I'm comfortable with what I got. So he wants to eventually give it to Roxy, especially because it's like, yeah, 10 years from now, women are going to be in high-powered positions, so it will do us good to have a woman in that high-ranking position amongst our organization, amongst us, and in the family, because, that's always been like the typical like hierarchy of anything. It's like, right, it always goes to the firstborn male. In this case, it went to Ricky, but Roxy's in a very special case of not only being the only girl in the family, but also being the only one that has this power. So Bernie's suggestion is like, right, Roxy and Ricky run it together, which is, once again, it's like that you're the youngest, but you're the only daughter. He's the oldest son, and, he kind of has his place in everything, and you kind of have yours. So it's like, right, let's see if you guys can cooperate, which Ricky's not all about that. For him, it's like, Dad's only doing this because of things now, but it's like, yeah, this will go away in a week. It's like, yeah, but the power she has isn't going away. So they're there to kind of make some dealings. And it's like, right, Roxy, don't talk. You might screw things up. But she sees someone there. And I was like, why does she recognize that guy? I was like, is it the guy who ended up killing her mom? But I was like, no, that's all been taken care of now. But it's like, no, the person person she found is the guy that her dad wanted to zap last episode. The guy that, oh, you owe me money. You only got like half my money. And for Roxy's like, yo, you up here chillaxing. You're actually hanging with some like pretty a rich company, despite the fact is, why are you up here chilling and relaxing, like stunting and stuff, when you are really in a bad position because you owe my dad money? Where's the rest of the money? And he wasn't taking her serious. And the other woman tried to step to Roxy because Roxy saw her skein, I guess she thought like, oh, you about to step to me? And Roxy shocked her legs. It's like, yeah, back down. You don't want to go blows with me. It looked like, I said, it looked like around her collarbone, like the veins were popping, like the skein was activating. So I guess Roxy saw she was charging up. But before you even have a chance, I'm better at this. Got plenty of rage to channel my powers through. So it's like, okay, David, you got till tomorrow. You're going to be at my dad's front door. You're going to give him the rest of his money. And she's tiptoeing her finger towards the water, being like, this is your last warning. Zaps him. He completely voids his bowels. And it's like, oh, Jesus, David, did you shit in my pool? And because no one else realizes what happens, David probably knows what happened, but, everyone else just kind of walks up laughing at him like, oh, how humiliating. So Roxy definitely leaning into her gangster status. And I do love, because tying this all together, Joss hasn't had an interaction directly with any of the other people, our main ensemble cast, but she does kind of indirectly connect with Roxy because she finds Roxy's video, because obviously she's been on edge after that guy burned himself alive, and obviously it's creating some trauma in her head to the point she has security going with her at school. It's like, yeah, it's a wild, wild west type of situation, so it's understandable why her mom and dad would be stressed considering the circumstances. And that one douchebag walking up being like, burn, he said something stupid like that, burn baby or something like that. And it's like, oh, freedom of speech. It's like, once again, it's like, I hate that. It's like, in one of those regards, it's like, freedom of speech doesn't stop you from, getting your ass whooped for being an asshole, Especially because he's referencing something traumatic. It is interesting, too, that Joss walked by her friend, the one who, sold her and Kat out a couple episodes back at school. So I'm assuming she's keeping her distance, even though they were good friends. I am curious, will she eventually try to reach out to Joss and be like, yo, I want that now? That might be an issue. Who knows? But they're definitely not the friends that they were. I mean, it's hard to be friends with someone literally stabbed you in the back. I mean, I think she was also a little jealous because, it was a scary time. It's like, well, what is this thing? What's going on? Who's got it? Blah, 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 blah. But also, it's like, I think there's a little jealousy because, oh, you kept blowing Yuki off to hang with other people. So maybe there's some element to that, but either way, Joss was watching the Roxy video because she wanted to feel safe. She was trying to get some comfort of not being scared, but it didn't stop, everything from coming back. And she found Ryan outside. He made a point, and I thought it was actually really sweet. He's got these lights in the shape of a heart, but he also is doing it I don't know if anyone, because there are guards around the house, so I don't know if anyone else recognized what he was doing. Joss knows what was what, but I don't know if any of the guards realized. They probably thought, like, oh, he has this setup. They probably didn't really recognize that he was doing it with his power. And for him, it's like, I heard about what happened to you, and I felt bad that I wasn't there for you, because what you're going through, like, the people who hate you, they would hate me too for what I am. And they try to hurt you, and they try to hurt me too. So it's like, I want to be there for you, and I want to support you, because for him, it's like, this is my opportunity. You're like, right, I was kind of hiding a little bit, but it's like, right, you and everyone is taking the brunt of this. Like, I can't hide in the shadows either. So I want to. Now, whether that means I'm going to fully be out there, I mean, he did it in such a public way, but also, once again, it's not enough for anyone to know. We'll get to the Maddie thing in a second, but it wasn't public enough for anyone else to really know what's going on except for Joss. So, but for him, it's like, right, we're side by side, and maybe he eventually will go with her to showcase it to the other girls, like, hey, like, he can do this too because of, his biological circumstances. But speaking of Maddie, he ended up recording. I was like, ooh, that's going to be bad, especially considering the fact is that Maddie is I keep going like Ubernox, but it's Uberdox. Urbandox. Urbandox? I always butcher the name, but it's like, yo. I mean, especially the parallel of Ali watching watching his videos online, especially as like hate and crimes against women and girls is on the rise in places because of Urbandoxes. I keep saying Nox is dox. Because I'm sure it's kind of supposed to almost be like how you dox someone. That's why I always have to click that in my head. I got to remember it that way. Either way, that Ali's watching that and it's like, and even the voice being like, now that's power, being able to sway people, which we did get to see that get showcased because it's like, once again, the voice saying, you don't even have to touch them to make them move. And that's the same thing with Urbandox. So he's doing his thing with his rhetoric, his voice and stuff like that. And we see Ali kind of doing the same thing to kind of counter his. So, but yeah, Maddie's a big fan of that. So I'm sure he's going to text that and put that everywhere because Ryan is a very interesting circumstance because twofold. One, the fact is you're one of the only guys that has it. So that like he was worried last episode. It's like people might cut me open and try to experiment on me. The thing is, if he has it, other guys are going to turn against him because they're going to, probably say, because Ryan's also going to have to think of, yeah, I'm intersex. So it's like you're going to have that hateful crowd coming after you because of that. Then you're also on top of that, you add in the bigots who also like will be against you because you have this power. There are going to be guys who are jealous because you have the power, and there are going to be people who want you to give them the power. It's like, how do we replicate what's going on in you so that, because someone might try and be like, hey, we need to do something biologically to men so they can start developing the power so that we can have a even playing field. Because to our knowledge, Ryan seems to be the only identifying male with the power, but we'll have to wait and see. But you can tell that's going kind of having caught like the tiniest glimpse of the next preview. I can tell that's going to be a big issue, I think, between Joss and Maddie when it comes out that he's the one that probably exposed Ryan. So I think that's where things are going to kind of get nasty there on that front. I think everything like is coming to a head with Maddie and this Urbandox situation. But we'll have to wait and see where things kind of go from there. Then we had the Carpathia situation where Tundi shows up and he talks to, was it Deacon, the reporter dude that's Rob's buddy? And he ends up pointing him towards Zoya because Zoya has gone full revolutionary in her own regard. And like she's going around burning all these different like towns and, saving and rescuing a lot of women from these circumstances, trying to make sure that it never happens again. And so Tundi's going to be the one that ends up reporting that. Deacon's the one that's going to be meeting with Victor about things, which, we'll circle to that side along with Tatiana in a bit. But Tundi talks, because for him, it's like, he looks at this as kind of like, because Deacon was looking at like, yeah, a war is coming, which, yes, there is. There are sides being chosen in this regard all across the board, and maybe it's just the optimist in him, but Tundi wants to say like, no, things are changing. Things are going to change for good, change for women. He's kind of seen that showcased first and foremost, like in the stories that he's covered, places that he's been, like Riyadh, for example. But it is this interesting thing where as he was on his way to go see Zoya, he talks about the places that were burned. They are places where people like either helped with the whole sex slave situation. They knew about it and said nothing because out of like fear, and then in some cases just because they were paid off not to say anything. So there are people who are just like, hey, I didn't say anything. I didn't help the situation by like helping put women, kidnapping them and putting them in a sex trade situation. But there's also, I didn't say anything either. That was Zoya's point. Like everyone knew, but no one said anything. So we see like as they're going by, like Tundi takes a picture of a kid standing there and waves to him, and then sees like a camp of men. They're all the men that like are without homes now because Zoya and her people like burned those places to the ground, and now those people are refugees now. So it is this kind of like, it sucks, but it's also like, I don't know, like not everyone's going to be complicit in it, but your inaction is complicit in that regard. So it's like, I don't know how to feel about that. It's like, I kind of feel like you kind of feel bad because, I mean, some of those people are like young children that are being displaced, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, but like eventually maybe the argument could be because of the circumstances you're growing up in, you're going to be one of those people who either takes part in it or you're going to be one of those people that stays silent just because that's how it's always run in this country. So ultimately, the guys that were dropping him off end up giving Tundi a gun for defense. But one of the guys calls Zoya a witch and was even saying like, hey, you might as well put a bullet in her head just for the sake of like, yeah, like she's a witch. She's burned so many places. She's kind of like caused so much destruction. But it's like, yeah, but you're only saying that now because she has the power to fight back against the fact is that you guys like were like, there's so many people that this country, like the way Tundi was saying, it's like this country is like one of the worst places. I don't want to say country because that will make it seem like it's a whole country, and I don't know what the situation is. I don't know if that's pulled from anything in real life, like, but like specifically this place in this show is the worst place for sex trafficking. So, and we see that Zoya is giving birth. Like her standing up at first, I was like, oh, that was. I was like, that was almost like a, I haven't seen it since like, I don't know if anyone else has had those situations, like the sex ed element. It was more so like health, but it coincided obviously with sex ed. I only took it one time, and that was like in 9th grade. It was like PE and physical health and education, and like part of the classroom part was like covering the health stuff and also like the sex stuff. And that was like the first time I'd ever seen like a birthing video, I think was in the 9th grade. So I was kind of like being like, whoa, I'm surprised they're showcasing that. I was like, whoa. That's wild. But Zoya gave birth to a girl, which I'm like, well, we know her daughter's going to be born with a skein anyway, but I wonder if the person who is giving birth, like if the mother has the power already, does it automatically unlock in the child even from a very young age, or will it eventually come up that the skein has to fully develop as they get older, just like any aspect of your body grows and changes, like obviously like it's got to grow and get bigger, or that's why I'm so curious, because we didn't really get an answer for that. That hasn't really come up yet. What does this mean for like newborn babies? Maybe because Zoya hasn't had the power for a very long time. It's still fairly new to her. So maybe it's a thing of you have to have the power active before you get pregnant so that your child is born with it. Or maybe it's a moot point that, yes, even though Zoya got it later on, like even after she was already pregnant, that maybe it's still applicable and her baby has it earlier. That obviously it's a girl, so the skein already exists. Maybe it just hasn't fully developed yet. Maybe it hasn't fully nurtured and grown. Like, will it? That makes you wonder too. Like, do your organs really like? I'm sure up to a certain point they've got to change and grow and stuff too, but I wonder like at what age and stuff does that stop? Because I was about to say, like, we have teenagers with the skeins, and like, are their skeins fully developed? Just like, oh, your brain isn't fully developed to your 20s or whatever, right? So that's what I'm wondering. That there's just so much in that regard, because obviously it's mainly young to teenage girls that their skeins are activating. The older women, it doesn't happen unless someone passes the charge on to you. So just kind of interesting. And Tundi ends up eventually being able to talk to Zoya. He was able to see something so beautiful as, I mean, obviously it's like, whoa, but it's also still like, life like that is such a beautiful thing. And you can see like Tundi was kind of almost brought the tears for it. So he ends up talking to Zoya, and he's like, I want to be able to give you a voice. He's like, the fact is, like, what I did in Riyadh, what I did in Nigeria, like it was my video in Riyadh in Nigeria that got me here. And Zoya says some really interesting things, because she's like, everyone knew, you want to give me a voice, but it's like everyone knew already what it was. And for her, it's like, I don't want peace, because any peace that you like showcase to the world is going to make them think like, oh, they're comfortable and they're safe in their situation. I don't want them safe. I want them to be scared. I want them to be worried that we can come after them, because we can and we will, because we don't want peace. We want war, because everyone knew what was going on. And even Zoya saying like, I learned how to say help me in 8 different languages, because she's like, the only difference between any of the other countries she went to is different countries push her head into the bed harder, It's like so many people around the world, all the places she was trafficked, knew what was what, but no one said or did anything, so it's like, we ain't about peace. You about that life, that sex trafficking, doing all that. Fuck you. We're ready for the smoke. In fact, we're up here ready to start the fire. So, but ultimately, Tundi is going to get his interview with Zoya, but she wants something first. And it's like, I need to talk to my sister. And that's when he finds out about Tatiana being her sister. It's like, oh, your sister's in the palace and everything. She doesn't work there. She lives there. And so I'm assuming that, because I think we saw it earlier, but I'm assuming that's the, oh God, what's it called? The placenta, Jesus. Because obviously, like, that ranges, because that's supposed to be like I mean, I'm sure it applies to different cultures, but I think in general that's kind of like a ritualistic thing to eat the placenta afterwards. Like, it's supposed to, like, I think to eat the nutrients, or I think it's maybe the nutrient situation, or maybe it's supposed to symbolically be good luck or something like that. Maybe a combination of two. And I guess that was a placenta she was eating. She gave some to Tundi, and he kind of chewed it, swallowed it, and just, kept trooping along. So he's going to eventually go talk to Tatiana, which obviously they are monitoring the EOD situation to the point all women basically have to be tagged like they're, I mean, I think that like they're animals in cages, essentially. Because I was about to say, because it's like animals in a zoo, and, zoos and SeaWorld type situations, but then also like, well, animals in the wild get tracked for scientific reasons and purposes and stuff like that. So it's like, that's why I don't want to like completely label it like, oh, if you like tagging an animal, it's evil. It's like, no, like, there are scientific benefits and reasons to do it. And like, the zoo situation, I don't really fully know how to feel about that, because I don't know enough about the zoo situation. Like, I think like, I don't know if zoos are fully in the same lane as like a SeaWorld, where it's like, nah, SeaWorld, fuck SeaWorld. Like, that's the general consensus of like how like a lot of the marine life was treated and stuff. So I don't know if that's fully applicable to zoos. I think it is, but that's why I don't want to talk on that regard, like, and say it with such certainty, because I'm ignorant on the subject. So either way. But yeah, it's like, oh, kind of bag and tag them, and now they have to wear like essentially ankle monitors that monitor your electricity. So I guess that was kind of like the benefit of like, she was laying in the tub and she put her leg near the radio, because the electric feedback from it was enough to kind of like set it off. So I guess it's like, it gave her kind of an excuse to kind of like if she could probably flex her power, but if she did, it probably registering like the electricity from a radio versus like the powers, you'd probably have to keep it below a certain percentage so it wouldn't like ever get picked up on the device, but any small amount would be registered. So now that Tatiana has the power, she has to be worried about that. So, and of course this would happen the moment she got the power, and it's like, oh yeah, go eat your dinner in your room or whatever. But then she ends up hanging out with Salongo, and she's like, right, let's switch lives, because Salongo comes from a home that's not a great home, like, just like, it doesn't like you come from a wealthy place. It's like, no, you come from like a probably like very like middling to maybe even poor house, probably like a lot of people. And she doesn't always get to take the bus. In fact, she also a lot of times has to walk to work. And for Tatiana, it's like, let's switch lives. And she's kind of got Salongo kind of like trying on, I think, some of her stuff, kind of getting to live that life. Because for Tatiana, it's like, I don't have to worry about being me. Like, she's had to deal with this since she was 15, you know? So all those decades of like having to like deal with it, and it's just a lot. So I think being able to kind of not be herself for a little bit. And you find out Salongo has a brother who's in prison, but it was sent to prison because he didn't pay off the bribe. He didn't have enough money to pay off a bribe, and he's in prison for 5 years. And she's like, oh, because you were with the president, I was hoping that you could get him. And it's like, first and foremost, the president is not going to listen to Tatiana like that. I don't think. Drained balls or not, sadly, like, I don't think that's going to, like, nothing she could say really would showcase, like, be able to kind of sway him. Like, I'm trying to say, like, even if she didn't have to, like, she would have to use sex, sadly, to kind of get her way, and even that, I don't think would work to her benefit. But then also Tatiana brings up, like, oh, I have a sister too. Then she kind of got on top of Salongo, and I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to, what that whole scene was representing. Like, I don't know if she was kind of using her electricity on Salongo, but then kind of kisses her, and Salongo's almost like, I don't know how to feel about this, which, once again, I don't know how to interpret that, whether that's supposed to be like a Tatiana's able to kind of be herself, and it's like, oh, like, maybe she's not into dudes at all. I mean, having to be with the president since you were 15, like, you never liked him to begin with. So I don't know if that's just kind of like, hey, that's just a him thing. Maybe your situation's very fluid, and like when it comes to your sexuality, or maybe it's just, you manually swing the women route, but you haven't been able to because of like the president and everything. So what that fully means, I don't know, but obviously we'll catch up more with Tatiana soon. Moment Tunde ends up like talking to her because Zoya was like, right, a war is coming, and I need to find out which side my sister's on. And she's lived a life that she's lived, but she doesn't like it. And now that she has this power, it's her means of freedom. But is she willing to kind of stand with her sister and fight? That's a whole other question. So 2 episodes left in the season, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the penultimate episode of the season ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.